Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Voices That Heal. This is your girl Jams. I am so glad to be with you. I know I missed you last month, and I apologize. Life be lifing, if you know what I mean. And so I wasn't able to do a podcast last month, but this month should be a good one. I'm very excited for today's episode. Before we get started, I want to, of course, give a few housekeeping suggestions and tips. We are live streaming on the Heal Collaborative Facebook page and their YouTube page as well. So if you want to engage with us, ask us questions, or show support or love in the comments, please feel free to drop a comment on either of those platforms, and I will do my best to get them into the conversation while we're discussing. The other thing is make sure that you are following the Heal Collaborative. We have a lot of good events coming on and coming up this year, not just around lung cancer, but the Heal Collaborative actually focuses on several different areas of health within the Black community. So make sure you're locked in and make sure you support, you share out the content, you subscribe to all the things that we have going on so that you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest information. So today's episode is going to be about risk factors for lung cancer. That is the theme for this month, for March. And what I really want to do is kind of talk through some of the risk factors that exist out there and some of the myths around just the ways that people get lung cancer. But we're also going to talk to Rona White, who is a lung cancer survivor as well. And she has been going through, God only knows, and only she can tell, the craziness to find a clinical trial for her own journey. And so we're going to talk to her as well about what she's going through and some of her things that she's sort of, found as she's gone through this clinical trial search. But also we're going to give some resources for maybe some other ways to find clinical trials, especially for folks that have extenuating circumstances or additional health concerns to be aware of. So I'm going to bring her to the stage now and let her introduce herself. So everybody, welcome Rona to the show. How are you doing today?
Hello, Jamie. I am doing very well. I could, I could be talking about war is me and what I can't do, but I
Right.
thank God for what I can. so, so my journey started in 2017 when I was diagnosed with stage 1 lung cancer, and it was I had a lower lobectomy, and the doctor told me I was healed. I could go live my life, and I would just follow up with the CT scans to make sure the routine scans to make sure that everything was still good. The cancer hadn't returned.
Mm-hmm.
I continued those routine scans, but I was having pains, and the doctors were dismissive and kept saying, "Oh no, everything's fine, everything's fine." So I went from "I'm healed, no cancer" to 2021 advanced stage lung cancer, because I wasn't being heard. And so from there, I started targeted therapy, and I did the full dose the first year. The second year, because of the side effects, I went down to half the dose. And the third year, I ended up in the hospital for lung toxicity
Mm.
because so I had double pneumonia and pneumonitis, and the cancer had spread. It really had kind of just spread all over. And so in 2023, wait, no, last year, 2024, I was diagnosed with leptomeningeal disease. And that's when the cancer spread to the fluid of the brain and the fluid of the brain and the spine. And so all of these are layers to trying to get clinical trials. So before before the leptomeningeal, when I was advanced stage, I would seek out clinical trials, and when I would speak to the different doctors or administrators over those clinical trials, they would say, typically when we have a patient on a drug that is, what would they say? I'll just say drug for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is working, if this is working, then we don't want to take you off of it. And so that was something I ran into often. And so that was my risk factor. Um, I couldn't get into a clinical trial because I was on a therapy that was so called working, but I knew it wasn't working because of the side effects that I was having, and how each year, like I said, while I was on the targeted therapy, I had to switch throughout that year. There were so many side effects that were really breaking my body down. And when I would talk to the doctors about it, they're like, "Oh yes, that's expected. That's expected." And while it's expected, um, I need something better. This is not working for me.
Right.
And so I finally, I finally found a clinical trial with my doctor at UCLA, and he I'll say he found it for me. And the problem was my platelets, And so to qualify, there's all these layers that boxes you must check to qualify. And the one box that I couldn't check, I couldn't get my platelets up to 100. And
Mm.
I was trying different medications. I was trying different, what do you call them? Different supplements. I was eating red meat like crazy, just whatever I could. And it just didn't work. The platelets would never get up to 100 because the medication for the for the lung cancer was suppressing my platelet levels. So and then what happened, that's when I ended up in the hospital. So at that point, the clinical trial was definitely off the table. So after that, I started uh, chemo, and I did some radiation, and that just the chemo and radiation. The first radiation I did was okay, but the chemo was breaking my body down, and that's what I believed. I started having problems with my legs and my ankles and my feet when walking,
Yeah.
to the point where I couldn't do it as much. And then it was less and less, and I wasn't working out anymore. I wasn't going on my walks. And that's like the height of my day with that. I love that sun just kissing my face, and
That California, that's it right there.
yes. And so I missed it, but I'm like, this chemo is is breaking me down. This is not good. So I made the decision to stop chemo. And my doctor said, "Well, we'll just take a little time off." So I just kind of agreed with him, like, okay, a little time. Um, he he started like 6 weeks. The 6 weeks was after 6 weeks. I was like, no, I need more time. Um, and so the symptoms were getting worse. I was getting headaches, and oh my goodness, it just my balance was off. And so finally, he did an MRI, and he found that's when he found leptomeningeal disease. Leptomeningeal disease is when the fluid uh, goes to the
Brain and the
when
spine.
the cancer goes to the fluid of the brain and the spine.
So how long between your pain in your feet and your legs and the MRI was it? Like how long of a delay was that? Because it
So the thing is, I started feeling this tingling sensation in my legs when I started targeted therapy. So in 2021,
Mhm.
I started feeling it. I'm taking targeted therapy for the for the for lung cancer. After I was diagnosed with advanced stage lung cancer. And so I was telling him I would only feel it when I get in the bed, and it was just a tingling sensation. And so they sent me to neuropathy. Uh, uh, they sent me to the doctor specializing in neuropathy, and they did tests, and they said everything was fine. I didn't have neuropathy. Okay, so then they want to give me muscle relaxers and more meds and more meds,
Yeah.
right? And so this went on throughout 2021, and so it was just simple because it was only when I only felt it when I would go to bed at night. So something about lifting my legs up because I was busy during the day, and then I would say probably the next year. So this it went on for years. So, but it was subtle.
Yeah.
So the following year, it got I started feeling a little numbness in my legs, and I went back to the neurologist and did some more testing, and again he said it wasn't neuropathy, and so then the oncologist started calling it neuropathy and said because the symptoms are growing now, the little numbness, it has grown to uh, bruising around my ankles, and um, it was just everything was going on with my feet. And it was crazy because the doctors had no answer for it. So my oncologist kept calling it neuropathy. And I asked him, I said, why do you call it neuropathy when the neurosurgeon said it is not after testing it? He said, well, based on your symptoms, that's what we call it. And then I saw the neurosurgeon again, I had a follow up, and I asked him, he said it was neuropathy. I said, well, you said before it wasn't neuropathy. He said, well, there are smaller nerves in the feet that we can't reach,
Mhm.
and that causes us to say, uh, to rule out neuropathy. But in your case, obviously, your symptoms that you're having, it is neuropathy. So again, I'm going in the, I have the mindset that I don't have neuropathy. I don't have neuropathy. And I'm walking. My 6 mile walk went down to 5 and then 4 until it, at this point, I'm not walking at all. I'm using a walker to get around in the house. So it
Mm.
was, to answer your question, it went on for several years.
And did you ever see like a second opinion doctor? Like, have you only ever treated at the one facility, or did you ever kind of seek out another doctor to kind of corroborate what the other folks are saying?
Absolutely. When I was initially diagnosed in 2021, it was during COVID. It was right at the height of COVID. And so I had to go out, and I really didn't want to go out
Hmm.
to these doctor's appointments because everything we just didn't know. Everything was unprecedented. So I I followed up, and every time I followed up, the initial hospital I was at was not one of the NCI locations, um, but where I went for my second opinion was, and so I at that point I got four opinions to to. It's like I wasn't
Listen,
saying
get as many as you need, like whatever's going to get you the answers.
absolutely. And so I ended up switching my care from that location to another location. And even though that was the other location was in an NCI um, location, um, it was important for me to have my care close to home in case something happened to me and the family needed to get to me. So because what I heard at that location was in agreement with everything I was hearing at the NCI locations, I said, okay, this is where I'm going to go because it's closer to home. It's
Yep.
like 15 minutes. And so that's where I went, and I had my care there for about a year until they referred me to UCLA, which is where I'm at now. And UCLA is definitely a NCI location. And so I continue to so I continue to stay at at UCLA, but even at UCLA, when I was looking for second opinions again, when I was trying to get into clinical trials, I I would all the NCIs, City of Hope, Cedar Sinai, um, Irvine, City Irvine. I just those that were close to me, within like an hour's drive or so, I would definitely reach out to them. So yes, I never settled for the one opinion. Even before they diagnosed me, I with stage 4, I had already started seeking out second opinions.
Okay. And now, so current day right now, have you actually found a clinical trial? Are you in one? How's it going? Like, what does that look like for you right now?
So right now I am pursuing a clinical trial, and I have been pursuing it for quite some time. So with leptomeningeal, the prognosis is not good at all. And so there's not a lot of clinical trials available for it. Um,
Yet.
Ironically, my insurance company is how I found it. So my insurance company has a cancer program, and I contacted them, and then it's a third party that I went through, and that third party found the clinical trial. And so I'm working with them right now. The clinical trials in Stanford, at Stanford, which is Northern California. It's about 6 hours from me, but it's about an hour from my sister. So it's something that is doable. So right now, we're just waiting to get my latest labs and MRIs done, which I have scheduled for about a couple of weeks, and we'll prayerfully, everything will keep moving. I will say that it's rather invasive, and so I'm still praying for, for something else to come through before, or God's miracle just to heal me, right now. Because so what makes it invasive is there's an Omaya uh, insert that they put in your head. Uh,
Okay. Oof.
yeah, and so most of the time they use that to put the medicine into uh, the. It makes it easier to get it to the fluid of the brain. However, in this case, I will get the medicine, IV through IV, but they want to measure how much of the medicine is going this into the brain fluid and spinal fluid, and so that's what they're using that for. And so they say you can feel it, you can feel it under your scalp, and
Oh,
it's about the size of a $quarter.
oof.
Yeah, so it's not something I'm necessarily looking forward to on that scale, but at the same time, I have been searching for so long. This is the third clinical trial that I've had. The first one for leptomeningeal, the other two were for lung cancer. But the other two, I just no, I'm sorry. The first one was for lung cancer. The other one was for leptomeningeal, and this one is for leptomeningeal as well. But for the first two, I wanted so bad to get into those clinical trials, and it just didn't work out. Like I said, with the first one, the platelets didn't work out, and then I ended up in the hospital with lung toxicity. Well, guess what? In the second clinical trial, I, the disqualifier was that I ended up in the hospital with lung toxicity.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So you really
so
didn't get to investigate the second one that much because you kind of were disqualified before like at jump.
say that again.
As like you really for the second clinical trial, you didn't even really get a chance to pursue that one because you were automatically disqualified for being in the hospital, you know.
I actually wasn't automatically disqualified because we were pushing through, like it was going through, and then it just came to a halt when they said, "Oh, we just found this in your record." So it was because I had pneumonitis due to the medication that I was taking. So they were going to use the same medication
Mhm.
basically, and that was why. Um, but I will say, um, because I had been through it before and was disqualified, I was like, okay, here we go again. It's kind of like you carry that weight of, okay, it may not happen, it may not happen, and you want to remain as positive as possible, but it doesn't always work out that way. So now, um, the only from what they say, the only disqualifier is, um, boy, I'm telling you, it's drama. The only disqualifier is, supposedly, um, my they want the MRIs to make sure it's still leptomeningeal, and then they want the lab work to make sure my labs are in sync. So, for example, the before, like, the platelets weren't high enough,
Yeah.
so that kind of thing they want to make sure of. So, but they asked me if I wanted the Omaya placed locally or at Stanford. And I said, naturally, I said locally, but then my doctor's like, well, until you sign the consent form with them, we don't want to place this uh, in your head.
Yeah.
And and I'm in agreement. So at this point now we're trying to decide if it's going to be done. It might have to be done at Stanford because and the problem. So then I'll go there, sign a consent form. Another thing my doctor said, and after we have a patient come in person to sign a consent form, nothing gets started with the clinical trial for at least 2 weeks. So he's looking at it from that perspective. And Stanford, they seem to have a more relaxed perspective. So it's one of those things where I don't want to say it's a red flag because
Yeah.
I'm staying remaining positive, but it's one of those things like,
You
okay, we
kind of
need
want
to
that
be
sense of urgency. Yeah. Like
absolutely,
this is
absolutely.
because it's a sense of urgency for you, you know. So to have a doctor or clinical trial that's not, you know, they're like, oh yeah, you know, like 3 weeks, you know, taking our time. Like, no,
Yes,
this is my life on the line here, you know. But honestly, I believe in miracles. You know, you're in the group with me. We've got stage 4 lung cancer folks in there who have had whole lung transplants and are cured.
yes,
So he's got you. God's got you. I have faith
absolutely.
that something is going to come through for you because I believe it. I really do. Honestly, I just
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. I believe it too. I believe
yep,
it too. I see myself. I see myself on the other side of this.
yep. Telling your story and sharing.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm like, hey, Ron, remember that time they was gonna put that quarter in your head? And we'll have a good laugh about it. We'll have a real good laugh about it.
Yes, yes, yes. That is so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to go through, or is there anything else on your journey that you want to share with us before we talk through some of these resources for clinical trials?
Um, No, I think I was very thorough. I think I was pretty thorough.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think, like I said, I believe in miracles, and I feel like something is going to come through for you for sure. So, everybody out there, if you know of any information or know of any resources that could potentially help this process or help us along, please feel free to reach out and let us know. This I feel like lung cancer is a community of word of mouth. You know what I mean? Like we share everything. Like, hey, I heard through the grapevine that X, Y, and Z is happening. So, if anybody's got something from the grapevine, please let us know. But
Yeah.
I found some stuff. You talked a little bit earlier about the NCI, which is, for those that don't know, National Cancer Institute. There's a lot of, NCIs across the country. There are a lot of, top hospitals and things like that that have that certification and have that delegation, if you will. But they do have that comprehensive database. So I'm going to try my best to put the links to all of these in the chat later on for those folks that are watching. But just some of the ones that I found, and let me know if you have looked at any of these resources as well, and if you have any experience with them, Rona. But obviously NCI clinical trials, and they've got a database where you can search for them based on your location, your treatment type, your eligibility criteria, and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of filter down to what you're looking for. Obviously, the big juggernaut in the room is clinicaltrials.gov. That's like the main database for all your clinical trials. So you can kind of start there to see if anything immediately jumps out. And then you probably have to jump into some of these other resources if you don't find what you're looking for at clinicaltrials.gov. But I just found out the American Lung Association has a clinical trial matching service, which I thought was interesting. So apparently they assign you not like a caseworker, but they assign somebody to you. And that person does a little bit of research to sort of match you up with relevant, trials based on your history and your treatment goals. So that also is something that folks can look into if you're feeling overwhelmed about looking for clinical trials or figuring out what to do. Maybe that's your first step, is to reach out to the ALA and see if they can partner you up with, one of their caseworker folks to find something and work with you and be sort of like an advocate for you to help you through that search while you're looking. Lung Cancer Research Foundation also has a bunch. They're near and dear to my heart. They were the first organization that when I was living in New York, that was where I got my diagnosis in 2018. And when I first, I guess I'll say, became comfortable with talking about the fact that I had lung cancer, they were the first organization that I actually went to and sat down with and, started sharing my story with. And so I always just have a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for them, because they're the first people that kind of introduced me into this community and, set me up for, the journey that I'm on today. So I'm definitely appreciative of them. But they have some clinical trial information as well. And then my other one that I tend to tell people is to really look at the pharmaceutical companies that create our medicines, like, Merck and Pfizer and AstraZeneca and, Bristol Myers. They all have clinical trials for new medications that are in development and stuff that they're working on that may not be open to the public yet. So, Rona, you're connected with the HEAL Collaborative, and they've got connections with all of these different, pharmaceutical companies. So that right there is also a good resource. I know you reached out, and me and Gabrielle tried to help you out a little bit, but that's also something that I think people don't tap into enough is actually talking to those pharmaceutical companies. And then I think just getting involved with some of these, the lung cancer organizations, and just, putting your name out there and, making your connections there, because a lot of times, like I said earlier, lung cancer is a word of mouth community. So, a lot of times, we don't know everybody, but everybody knows us, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like our names are constantly being thrown around in rooms that we're not even in. So it's definitely come in, share your story, get to know people, because you never know, the connection that you're making might set you up for something important down the line. So I usually tell folks to just put yourself out there and share as much as you can. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes, no, I'm in agreement. And you made a good point with the medications, because in all my research, I never reached out to any of the pharmaceuticals to say, hey, do you have a clinical trial for this? As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I may be going back to the drawing board to do that. So I really appreciate that. And then the other thing you said with the American Lung Association clinical trials, because I did reach out to them, and they helped me with a couple of things, but it was like I
Didn't help.
just wasn't qualified for. But do you have a contact? Because I wasn't aware that they had this new clinical trials thing. Do you have a contact or just the basic? Uh,
So I have folks that I know at the American Lung Association just from working with them in various different events and stuff like that. I'll ping all of them and just say, hey, I've got a friend here who's looking for, information on the clinical trial matching program and see if I can get you connected that way. That's not a problem.
okay, okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Because yeah, I have a couple of contacts at ALA, and they did push the information forward, but then they said the response they received back was something about they're not medical, like they're not medical providers or something like that, and so they have to be careful how they share the information. So I would really be curious to know how that works out. So please do reach out. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that actually sounds like they might be working with one of the pharmaceutical companies or have some of that proprietary information from them. And that's why I'm like, you reach out to the pharmaceutical companies. Sometimes you'll get information that folks don't have yet because it's not like clinicaltrials.gov and all of those are like ones that are out there and ready to go. You might find some from the pharmaceutical companies that are still in development. So that, and it's for what
Mm,
it's worth, it could be, it's hope, like, hey, there's a clinical trial being developed where maybe you keep your finger to the pulse of that and, you're on the first one on the list for when it opens up or something like that. But it, again,
yeah.
resources are resources. So I always just, put them joints in your pocket and keep them for later. Like breath mints, like, listen, hey, look what I found in my pocket. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so I definitely appreciate that. And, I'm so terrified of having to do a clinical trial. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
know, I know how that is because most of the times when we're on clinical trials, it's not because our medication is working great and everything's going smoothly. It's because we're out of options and like we're
Mhm.
really running up against the clock in terms of finding something to work with us. And so for me, it's a very scary thing. And I definitely appreciate you coming on here to talk about it and being so transparent and sharing kind of all the struggles in and out of your journey that you've gone through just to even establish care for yourself. Like I know somebody listening here is probably like, man, all right, I'm going to take some of this information she's given me and run with it to make sure I'm good. So I always say that sharing is not necessarily caring, but sharing could save a life. Like
Yeah,
you could be
absolutely.
saving somebody's life by sharing your resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that's what we're here for. We're not just here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve others. And by sharing our stories and helping to generate hope, I believe we are the light of the earth, and it's our duty to shine.
Yeah.
And and through shining, it means sometimes bringing up the darkest of the dark
Yeah.
journeys, and but just carrying that torch or carrying that weight to the other side, like not giving up, because going up the mountain, you get to you almost to the peak. That's the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
I think about my graduate studies, uh, and how I was almost halfway through the program, my MBA program, and I was ready to quit.
Yeah.
You know, but once I pushed through to that side, I made it over, and that's what I feel like on this journey is the journey I'm on right now. It's like, okay, I've been pushing. Now's the time that I'm gonna make it over. And so it's one of the darkest times right now, but I choose to see the light in it. And I don't even speak of the pain, the the memory loss. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention is that I mentioned I had radiation
Mm-hmm.
early on, but when I had radiation for the lepto, it targets the brain. So I take medication for short term memory loss, and I find it more of a struggle to grab my words and put them together. And so I
You're
was
doing
talking
fine, girl. You're doing
I was
fine.
talking to my mother the other day. I was like, this is like grandmother. I feel like grandmother when and she was in her 90s. She
Yeah.
died at 100, and I'm trying to make it to 100 too. But let me roll back some of these symptoms and side effects that I'm feeling right now. So I said all that to say the radiation was different when I got it for leptomeningeal because of where they were targeting,
Yeah.
and because I was already so uh, weak and fatigued. Now the radiation is making it worse. So the first time I had radiation, I drove myself. I picked my baby up from school. I came home. I cooked dinner, cleaned the kitchen. I did all these things. But this time when I had it, my husband is helping me out to the car. I'm using a cane to get to the car. When we get to the hospital, he goes and gets a
Wheelchair.
wheelchair for me, and I'm being pushed around in a wheelchair. And so that works against the mindset too. And I had to fight hard for the mindset. But that month, after radiation, it was horrible. Fatigue. So there's different levels of it. I couldn't keep anything down, and so I look at the two different types of radiation that I had, and I understand how. I thought I was going through this like the first. This was
Hmm.
way different than the first time. So
Did they
that's what
warn
I
you
was.
at all that that was going to be this caliber of difference, or did they give you any kind of indication like, hey, you had radiation one, this is radiation 2.0? Like, did they warn you?
Not at all. Not at
Oh.
all. They just tell you because the first time I had radiation, they tell you what the symptoms could be,
Hmm.
right? And so they all sound the same.
Yeah.
Fatigue and maybe some weakness, and they all sound the same. So this time, they told me again, and they said might be some hair loss, and it might be, it might be this, it might be that. And so um it no, it hit hard. It hit hard this time, and it's very hard to like even just the simple things like showering. And so this was the first time in all of the 7 years that I've been battling cancer, lung cancer. This was the first time that I actually lost my hair. And so I don't mind this new, I say I look like the last airbender. I don't know if you saw that movie.
Stop it. No, you don't.
So I said I gotta get my superpower and pull all of these together and start doing my woosah. Yeah,
And heal yourself while you're at it.
absolutely. That's what I'm doing, girl. That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. So yeah.
It's the same thing with any kind of medication if you think about it, because like even with the TKIs that we're all on, like I'm on alectinib, and I've been on alectinib for 6 years or whatever it is, since 2019. And I know other folks have been on it too. There's a gamut of side effects that come with this medication, and some of us get all of them, some of us get none of them. So
Right.
it's the same thing, I guess, with the chemo. It's like I guess they tell you, these are the side effects, and sometimes you get some of them, but it sounds like this time you got all of them. And, but I do say too, all the struggle that we go through, all the struggle that you're going through, everything that you've put up with. I see Donna's watching. I see you, girl. All the stuff that you yourself have been through too. Everything that we're doing is going to echo through history, because we are
Absolutely.
we are trailblazers in this stupid community that we hate being in. But we are trailblazers. We are forging the path. We are advocating. We're making noise. We're living longer than ever before and
Oh yes,
we're shouting while we do it. So everything that we
yes,
do is we're setting the stage for people coming behind us. We're making sure that we're putting a hand out to carry those
yes.
folks too, like, come with me, this is how we do this. So it's troublesome, it sucks, everything is 180 from what you're used to, but you are making history and you're killing it, so keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely, and I can only do it because I have you and the rest of our crew, and we help lift each other up. And I haven't been in social media since I started the chemo radiation, but last year. But I'm getting back. I'm getting back to it because it really is a blessing to have a sisterhood who can speak on what we have, what we share, and how we overcome. Because that's the biggest thing. We don't want to bring each other down. We want to lift each other up. And
Yeah.
so,
And I know
yes,
you were talking about wanting to do a podcast more often and stuff like that and starting one. I don't know if, I don't know how you combat the memory loss or how you combat the speech, issues that you have. But if you want to continue doing a podcast, I will welcome the guest anytime. If you want to be a guest host on Voices That Heal, or you want to do your own separate thing, I will, help you along the way and be right alongside you, because I'm happy when I'm broadcasting. I tell you that. It's definitely something that I'm passionate about and something that I love to do. I don't have as much time to do it as I used to, just because of work and advocacy and life and whatever else in between.
right.
But I do love to do podcasts. I love sharing my story. I love, doing all that kind of stuff. So if that's something you want to do, lean on me and we can do it together. I can help
Okay.
you with it.
I appreciate that, Jamie. I will. I
Yeah.
definitely will, because I'm getting stronger now, and it's like, okay, I can't waste these days.
No.
Every day I have to make sure I'm being a light to somebody, and sharing my story is one way that I can do that. And
Yeah.
and just my faith, because when I don't recognize that someone is watching, they come to me and say, "Wow, Rona, you make this journey look really easy. I
Yeah.
had no clue that you were sick. I had no clue that you were still going through this. Wow, look at you every day. You're so strong. You're doing this. You're doing that. And it's simple stuff like. But I need to get back to taking my daughter back and forth to school.
Hmm.
The things that I used to do, but I can't get behind the wheel just yet.
Not yet. I try to reclaim every little bit of my life that cancer has tried to take from me whenever I can. So,
Absolutely.
that's all it is for me. It's a pride thing at this point. Like, yeah, you thought like, no, I'm
Uh-huh.
still doing this. You know what I mean? But I think
Absolutely.
I think like at the end of the day, we all go through this differently. We all handle it differently. I think we're all tired of being strong. If I'm being honest and speaking for the group as a whole, I think we're all real tired of being strong
Yes.
and handling it. Um, but it's like you have this choice. It's like you get this diagnosis and you can either just lay down and cry the whole time and be like, boo-hoo, this is my life, or
Yeah.
you can kind of boss up, deal with the challenges that come with it, and look damn good doing it. And I love that that's what we do. That's what we
That's
do.
what we do.
Like, all
Yes.
right, cool. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make it work. Somehow, some way, I'm gonna make it work. Um,
Absolutely.
but I can't put enough emphasis on how important our group chat is, even if I'm not always in there. But like it's exciting but sad every time somebody new gets added. It's like, oh, welcome, I
Yes.
guess. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
so sorry you're here, but come on in. It's the party that
Yeah,
nobody wanted to go to. Um,
absolutely.
but at some level too, it makes my heart happy, because I know when I first got diagnosed, I didn't have that woman group to fall on and lean on, and to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with. So to know folks are getting newly diagnosed and finding us, it's like, it's nice. It lets us know that
Yes.
we're doing something. And that's why I mean, like, our stuff is echoing through eternity. Like, folks getting diagnosed with lung cancer in our community come find us. They come find
Yes.
us and they join our group. That's it right there. Like,
That's it.
that's it. That's great. So
That's it. Because it can be a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
And like you said, you didn't have it when you signed up. I didn't have it when I did. And when I found you all, I was like, what? This
It's
is
a
for
whole
me?
bunch of us here.
This is for me. Like this is like I'm plugged in.
Yep.
This is it's got my name written all over it. And
Yep.
to find a crew that is just open and loving and warm, and have the same things that going on that you do, maybe in different ways, and then we encourage each other in so many different ways. I'm having these challenges, but the medicine is not working, and then we have different types of supplements that someone may be trying, or perhaps it's just a simple stretch, like I do chair yoga. I'll say I used to do it. I got to get back to it. But just sharing different things like that. And every suggestion doesn't work, but when you get that one that does, it's like, oh yeah, that's perfect. Thank
Yep.
you so much. It really worked out for me. So yeah, it's nothing like being connected with our sisterhood, because before it was a very lonely journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Mhm.
think it's 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 a blessing and a curse at the same time because I get too attached to y'all. I really do. I'd be like, like check in. Where you at? I ain't heard from you in like a week. You okay? Like and there's always that scariness in the back of your mind. But I love having a group of women that understand what we're going through and that support each other. Like I think it's important to have that, and so I'm grateful. And if the ladies are watching, we appreciate you. We throw our hearts up for
Yes.
you and all that good stuff. Like I'm gonna try to check in more, but I think too for you, I was going to say, you need to share your story more often. So if you're going to podcast, I think you should just share the aspects of your journey that you're comfortable sharing with the world. Like you're going through your chemo, you're going through your radiation, you're slowly getting back to your walks, you're getting back to taking your daughter to school and stuff like that. I think all of those kinds of videos that you can share with the world are helpful, not only to other people, but to yourself, because you get those, it's a gift and a curse. I say that all the time. You get those Facebook memories, like on this day 1 year ago, you're like, you look back and you look at where you are the next year, and you're like, look at what I was going through back then and look where I am now. And it just
Wow.
kind of reaffirms your faith. It reaffirms your hope and your excitement and everything that goes on, because it puts it into perspective. Because like when you're in this and you're really in it, it's like you just get lost in the weeds. You're like, I don't know, it's just another thing going on. Now, what do I have now? Now I got a headache. Okay, what is that for? Okay.
So
It's
true.
just stuff hits you all the time, and you just don't see the bigger picture for the trees, or whatever that phrase is. And so having those memories and having those things pop up on your news feed, and then remembering just where you were 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and comparing where you are now and what you're doing now, it's great. It makes you feel like, oh, you know what? Look at it. I have come a long way. Go me. And it
Yeah,
gives you that
yeah.
little pat on the back you need. So I would say, start yourself off small and just start recording little parts of your journey as you go, and
Okay.
use that as a way to, like, a video journal, if you will, to just boost your whenever you need a boost of dopamine and all that good stuff. It'll
Yeah, I will. I definitely will start that. It's more of a challenge for some people.
yeah.
So but I will make more of an effort to document this journey, be via I don't know. That's right.
I did. That's funny.
Oh Lord, he's over there in the other room with his headphones on, so he's oblivious. But I'm sorry.
No, that's
Anyway,
okay.
anyway, yeah. So it's more of a challenge for me to get the phone, video, and think about what I'm gonna say. But I will make the effort to do it, because that's the next challenge. That's the next
Fun
challenge.
pro tip: get yourself a tripod and set it up in a spot in the house that you like, that you're comfortable in, that has good lighting and the situation is perfect. Set it up there so that whenever you're ready to record and you feel like you're ready to record, all you got to do is put your phone on the tripod, sit down, get comfortable, and say whatever comes to your mind. It'll make it easier for you. That way you don't feel like you got to be like Steven Spielberg, finding angles and like setting the phone up here. Like, you don't got to do all that extra stuff. Just find yourself a comfortable spot that you can share and start there.
Okay. And I have the tripod here
There you go.
in the house. I just don't use it anymore, so I will go back to using it.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Thanks, Jamie.
And it's easier too, because then you don't have to hold the phone and you're not like trying to talk and all that too.
Exactly. Usually I use my laptop, but it went out on me the other day. And so now I'm like, I can't do this on my phone. Yes, I can do it on my phone. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's what pulls me through. And so lately I've been doing my doctor appointments on my phone, but I can't wait to get it back on my laptop because I don't like using my phone. I like to use my phone when I want to reference something.
Yep. That's what I do. I got my phone here if I need to look up something real quick, and I got my research in front of me, and I got everything all situated. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
So it's funny. You wouldn't believe it, but like several years ago, maybe I would probably say 2015. 2015-ish, 10 years ago. Golly, really? Okay. Anyway, 10 years ago, I was not into video at all. You could not get me to video chat. I didn't want to record no videos of myself. I was video averse. Like, I was like, no, not gonna happen. I remember when I met my husband, like we first started chatting, we met online and it was funny, but like we met online and he would like try to call me on FaceTime. And I'm like, why are you trying to like video chat with me? Like I'm not catfishing you. I look like my pictures. Like, this is what I look like all the time, you know, but he used to always want to video chat. And I used to be like, no, I'm good. Like, and he thought for a while that I was not what I look like in my pictures.
Wow.
Because I hated being on video. Now, like I used to be on TikTok and I'm on social media and all kinds of stuff. And it's just normal now for me. But like you could talk to some of my old colleagues from WJMS. They'd be like, oh yeah, you couldn't get Jamie on video before. We had to drag her kicking and screaming to video. Now she's like consistently on video somewhere.
Yeah. Since I've known you, you're all over social media with videos and your comedic comedic roles, and I used to enjoy them. Like I said, I haven't been on social media since last year when I started radiation. Actually, before that, I started a chemo where they do the spinal tap, the different kind of chemo. Oof. And that was rough. And so now, like I said, I'm getting stronger, get back on social media. And it's amazing how that's another step just to get back on social media. And so I'm gonna work on that this weekend.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Set challenges for myself. How I'm trying to say, set
little goals,
stepping stones for myself. Yeah. Yep, to get where I want to go. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I know that's funny. Like I feel like I definitely do put more comedy, regular life, funny videos out than I do of advocacy. I really do. I feel like the other thing with being in the group is like, you just feel like, damn, like I'm not doing enough. Like I gotta advocate a lot more, man. I'm not out there in these streets enough making noise. So I always feel a little inadequate and stuff like that. You know, just you always end up comparing yourself to the other folks in the group. But like, I know I need to do a lot more advocacy, but I don't know. There's the way I'm going through my journey is that like, I can't eat, sleep, breathe and live lung cancer. You know, like I gotta eat, sleep, breathe and live myself and what makes me happy and what is best for my mental health. And while I love sharing my story and telling, you know, inspirational stuff and all that kind of stuff, I love doing that. I can't do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it is a little bit of a catharsis for me, but it's draining at the same time, emotionally and mentally, you know? So I turn to comedy videos more than I do like advocacy stuff, just because it's like, and it's also part of my whole tagline, like, you know, I have cancer, but cancer doesn't have me. Like, you're not going to take over my whole life. You're not going to be the only thing I talk about, think about, and live about. Like, I was a whole living, breathing person before I got this diagnosis, and I'm one now, even in spite of having it. So I don't want this to be like Jamie equals lung cancer. That's not, like, I want it to be Jamie equals Jamie, and little asterisk, she had lung cancer too, by the way, so I constantly try to walk that line a little bit of, like, trying to share my story and also advocate and stuff like that, but also just trying to live my life and have fun, so I'm going to try to do better at balancing both, because I definitely am way more skewed on one, but,
Well, laughter is good medicine for the soul.
Right. And I like to be silly. Like, I'm silly in general. So that's me. That's just me. But I didn't talk at all about lung cancer risk factors, but what I'm going to do for the audience today, because I did promise y'all I would talk about that. And I also was supposed to have another guest with me. I'm going to follow up with that guest today to see if she's still interested in doing the show. And then we'll come back on, because she has, she's the president of CR3, which is Citizens for Reducing Radioactive Radon, I believe it is. So going to get her back on, try and talk through the risk factors of lung cancer. I'll do a second episode this month for you guys, just to tie it up in a bow. But, I really wanted to just dedicate some time to you, Rona, to talk through your journey. And, once we started talking, I was like, I ain't getting into risk factors today. Nope. We're going to stick right on this. We're going to stick on this.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, so I'll do a spinoff of this episode today and do some more risk factors and stuff and talk through those for everybody who's interested. So make sure you guys are locked in and that you're following the Heal Collaborative to find out when that next episode will be. In the meantime, Rona, if folks want to find you, follow you, encourage you, support you, where can people get in touch with you on social media now that you're coming back?
Rona Writes, not like WRITES. That's my handle on Facebook. I think it's Rona Siobhan at Instagram, which I will get more involved in. Most of the time I just do Facebook. Those are the two. I have LinkedIn too. And that one is Rona Cookwhite.
Okay.
COOK -white, like the color. Those are the three that you can find me at.
All right, folks. So you heard it here first. Go find her, follow her, share her content when she comes back out, and more importantly, just support and show love on the content that she does post. I want to make sure before we close out the episode today that I mention that the Heal Collaborative is having their second annual African American Lung Cancer Patient and Caregiver Summit this year. It's happening in Houston, Texas, April 24th to 26th. We're like 40-ish something odd days out, 50 days out or something like that. Last time I checked, it's crazy. We're already at 90% capacity. So if you are a lung cancer patient or caregiver, please make sure you go register like today, because we're running out of space quickly for the summit. And I'm excited about it. It's a good problem to have. So make sure you go check that out. Again, follow the Heal Collaborative. They are at Heal Collaborative on Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow their YouTube page if you want to see previous episodes of Voices That Heal. I will be back again sometime this month with a secondary episode on strictly like lung cancer risk factors for those that are itching to find out what they might be. But I want to appreciate and just say thank you to everybody who tuned in today, to Donna for dropping some love in the chat for us as well. And then for everyone who tunes in on a regular basis and just supports the content, we appreciate it. If I don't hear from you guys, or if I don't get to see you guys, have a safe and happy rest of your weekend. And I will see you guys the next time right here on the Heal Collaborative Voices That Heal podcast.